Good morning, good people. This is your PooleProof Wisdom Moment, Monday edition. We are right now embroiled in a lot of controversies around politics and party. The Republicans are doing this. Why aren't the Democrats doing that? Oh my gosh, why can't we have, nonpartisanship? And we get embroiled in that over and over again. And we tend to forget that the labels applied to these political parties are just that. They're labels. They are not something that defines how the people who are going to align themselves with those parties behave. It never has been. We know historically that the Republicans used to be the ones who were considered to be in favor of certain groups versus Democrats who were not, and vice versa, over time, back and forth, circle around circle. No matter what the circumstance may be, we find that this type of thing shifts over history. So it's not the label of Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative that makes the difference. What makes the difference is the heart and minds of the people who align themselves with a party and how that party will embrace it over time. And right now we're at a point in our history where we see one party doing some things that are terrifically dastardly, to say the least, and another party that seems to be on the other end of the spectrum, obviously a far end of the spectrum, wanting to do things differently. And we like to think that one is better than the other, but at the end of the day, it's still a group of people who are, of course, guided by what they believe is right or wrong, given a number of different circumstances. Sometimes the fact is the only way to find a solution is to find a middle ground. But when you've got two parties who are so consistently committed to no middle ground, just one way or the highway, as they say, is it any wonder that we consistently find ourselves at an impasse? I don't think so. We've forgotten that the middle ground is not a horrible place. It's usually when things go too far either one way or the other that we have all types of mass hysteria and chaos. History has proven that time and again. Yet here we are refusing to go to the middle. And we say that it's one party versus the other, but anyone who has worked in politics knows it's not that simple. The hearts and minds of the people who are going to align themselves with any party vary. There are people who, no matter what you do, are going to have the good interests of humanity at heart no matter what. They're going to fight for everyone. No distinctions being made. They believe that every person who is born and lives in this world and in this country has equal rights, and that's what they're going to fight for. And there really shouldn't be any gray area with that. The middle ground, however, is another story, and I'll get to that briefly. There's another group of people who, no matter what you say or do, their belief is that there is only the perspective that says that certain people should be allowed full rights and other people lesser and lesser and lesser based upon degree, given different circumstances, what they look like, who they pray to, who they sleep with. These types of things are just a few examples that are used. Money over people, profits over priorities. These types of things are all arguments that we have heard, and we understand why. But there's a third group, and they're the ones who are the most interesting of all to me, because they're the ones who are on the fence. They're taking in what's being said by one group or another, and they're trying to figure it out for themselves in terms of where they stand based upon their own individual experiences and understanding. These people, of course, are very important because they can go either way based upon whatever push is going to be the one that unlocks the key to what they believe is the way we should go. And that's the reason I consider that middle ground so important, as I said, because that's where most people generally are. We don't have an equal split here, 50-50, this group or that group. We have a whole lot of people who are mixed when it comes to opinions and ideas and simply trying to figure it out. That's the reason I think it's more important for us to figure out what makes sense without going too far to one end of the spectrum or another. Some people have called me liberal, for instance, because I do subscribe to certain social beliefs about how people should be treated and equity. Some people have called me conservative because when it comes to financial matters, I do have some conservative values, people would say. I call myself Charles K. Poole because I think for myself and I make decisions based upon what I think is in the best interest of humanity, period. But that's okay. I'm not too upset about being called one thing or the other. Lord knows I've been called everything but a child of God. So I'm used to being given labels. So I say all of that because sometimes you have to wonder what's in the hearts and minds of the people who are making the decisions. Now, it's been my experience that people who know what it's like to go without, to be disenfranchised, to be trampled upon, who know what it's like to have nothing and no one, are the people who are more willing to give some type of credence to the possibilities that other people are being left out in the cold as well. That it is unfair to treat any human being without dignity and respect and without concern and compassion. And these people are the ones who I consider myself of the tribe I belong to. And I'm glad to be part of that tribe because at the end of the day, when everything else is measured, what really matters most is, are we doing our very best to help humanity move forward in every way possible? And that doesn't mean certain segments of humanity. It doesn't mean people who are more rich or more well-connected. It doesn't mean that only the people who have and the people who do not have are somehow so distinctly different that we have to, of course, choose who is going to be the one who represents the survival of the fittest. Well, I can tell you something about those who have been through the mill, who have gone through stuff, who have overcome the circumstances into which they find themselves, who have known poverty and lived through it and still here to tell the story, who have known what it's like not to have food on the table or how you're going to pay your bill. Those people know what it requires to survive. I think a lot of times that people who don't know what that's like have no idea of why these people who do are so important to this country, to this world. Because it's only people who have been through something, I have found throughout my life, who know how to get through whatever comes down the pike. The ones who don't, they cower. They run away. They don't understand what to do, and they look to others for solutions because they have no idea what to do themselves. And we have got to remind folks that every life is valuable. Every opinion is worth hearing. Every opportunity to help humanity move forward, one person at a time, deserves an opportunity to flourish. And if we're not willing to do that, politics don't matter. Titles of politicians don't matter. Party lines don't matter. All that matters is that we are taking the opportunity we've been given to be on this planet together, and somehow, some ridiculous way how, we have completely lost the chance to do right by it. Doesn't that scare you? Doesn't that make you wonder why we are in this position? Because if it doesn't, it should. You're in the middle. Most people are. You're not hard left, you're not hard right. You just want everybody to live well, and you want to live well for you and yourselves. And if you can do that and try to find a way in the process to make sure everyone is able to do so equally, then that makes you, in my mind, a decent human being. And decent human beings, regardless of party, regardless of affiliation, regardless of perspective, are the ones who, God willing, will inherit the earth. That's your PooleProof Wisdom Moment for today. Find me on Spotify, on Anchor.fm, on Google and Apple Podcasts, and podcast platforms everywhere. You can also pick up my book, I Am My Own Cause, The Third Act, Surviving and Thriving, on Audible, and of course, my book site, PooleProofBooks.com. We're off to a good week, folks. Have a good one.